There's a movement brewing, and that movement is the MeTotal lifestyle.
It centers around you keeping your sense of self intact and in gaining clarity of purpose as you age. I'm Kary.
I'm Joe.
I'm JM.
And we're on a mission to show you how to enjoy friends, fellowship, and life without substance dependence.
It's time to discover how you can begin living a MeTotal lifestyle.
Right here on the FUZZEE'ish podcast. Let's go.
Welcome back to the FUZZEE'ish podcast. I'm your host, Joey Q, and with me today, as always, are JMG and Kary. Why don't we go back? Let's back up a second and just do a quick round robin on MeTotal's first months of life, right? So we obviously coined the term about a year ago, a little bit over a year ago. It's been out there in social media circles and on the podcast now for about 4 or 5 months. What have we learned in having conversations with ourselves and applying things to our daily lives, conversations with people that have listened to and followed the podcast or connect with us on social media? What have you guys been feeling or hearing out there?
Yeah, so I'll start. I mean, I think, as I mentioned, and we've talked about this some, both online and offline of the show, I think the origin of MeTotal was this idea of a different relationship with alcohol, and that it doesn't need to be 1 or 0, and there's not just the same path, the 12 steps or cold turkey or a religion or some other type of therapy or rehab that gets you from that 1 to 0 aspect. You know, there's a step by step or, you know, an incremental process to having improved relationship with booze. I think the thing that I've learned the most is that it resonates across just about all types of mental wellness and not even just consumption. So it's easy to apply it to addiction, and obviously it starts with alcohol, but the reality is your mental wellness is one day at a time as well, right? And it's incremental, and it's working on certain things to try to improve the, you know, sort of mindset and frame of mind that you're in on a daily basis, just the same as it's trying to, you know, not have a few drinks or too many drinks every week, the way that it started. So I'm just excited because of the breadth of what it could mean and the number of people. I really truly believe it will help to understand that there's a better path, and that even though you can't see the results on a daily basis, there's this community of people that care and that will listen and will continue to talk about it, but can also exemplify the successes and the improvements that they've made in their own life by truly sort of stacking one better day at a time over and over and over.
Kary, what about you?
You know, what I've learned just kind of from this journey over the last however many months we've been doing this is, you know, MeTotal is not about convenience. You know, this isn't a movement of convenience. And when I say that, I mean, you know, we talked earlier about resilience and just being on the path and persistence and discipline. And, you know, again, I've been talking about just kind of feeling like I'm in the eye of the storm right now. And, you know, there were a couple of days where, you know, I wasn't hitting my workouts as hard. Maybe I didn't go for that walk. I didn't do the cold shower. I didn't do the check-in with my wife. And a couple more days go by and it's just like, man, I'm really agitated right now. Man, I'm really irritated right now. Man, I feel like the world is just caving in on me. And my wife just kind of had to check me. She's like, did you do the things that you say that are important to you? You know what I mean? Like, yes, like maybe you want X, Y, and Z, but those are things right now that maybe you can't control. And what I realized with this MeTotal lifestyle is it's not about convenience. It's really about the choice to commit to what I say I'm going to do. Like, what are the things that I can do regardless of what the weather is, regardless of what's in my bank account, regardless of what time it is, regardless of what day of the month it is, regardless of what's in the refrigerator. It doesn't matter. So I think for me, just being reminded through all the different talks and interviews that we've had is everyone that's on this path right now, at some point they make a sacrifice and a commitment that their MeTotal, that their lifestyle, that their however many things they just need to do per day is more important than anything else going on, regardless of how it feels. Is just something that, yeah, it's just something that it's really ingrained in me. It's just like, bro, some days you're just not gonna want to do it. And the question is, are you going to listen to that or are you going to keep moving? So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the short version. I just think hearing everyone's story is just reminding me that this isn't about convenience. It's about a choice.
Yeah, man. And it's the choice to have to be a better version of yourself. Right. I mean,
Yeah, man.
that's the
One better
reality of
day.
the
One better
situation
day.
right. Like, I mean, all those things that you said, I'm just sitting here shaking my head in complete affirmation and confirmation, because you don't want to do it every day, but
Yeah.
the result and the person and the human that we're all trying to be and are making this commitment to be is a better version and a better model for all those people that we come across personally and professionally. So I'm here for all that.
In terms of the things that I've learned over the first, like, I'd say 6 months of MeTotal being out there in the wild, I think it's really hard trying to communicate something that's kind of a new to the world concept like this. And the reason I say that is because I think for so long, and this has come out in several conversations I've had with people, for so long we've been so used to seeing role models of a lot of different ilk. And when we think about white collar examples of people that we should try to emulate, it's usually rich people, wealthy people with big houses, with hot wives and stuff like that. Or you're confronted with like blue collar, archetypes of that you should be following: brave people, firemen, policemen, EMTs, things like that. But there has never really been that middle ground. There hasn't been that compassionate, soft-spoken leader of a family, somebody that lives a good life. I mean, there always has been. We've seen these people, and individually, if you know them, you know that you should look up to them. And I think we've probably all individually seen that in our lives and some of our friends' parents and whatnot. But really trying to put some language around that and try to figure out how to you know live a life that's worth people following, I think is an interesting conundrum to have, because you don't hear Hollywood talking about this. You don't hear corporate America talking about people that are trying to march on a MeTotal journey. And I think it's a challenge of a lifetime to try to figure out how to synthesize and crystallize and put the right words into action, put the right imagery into action. And we've struggled with this as a trifecta, is really trying to figure out how to bottle it all up and package it for people. But like, I think that's the thing I want to let listeners in on a little bit, is that on a daily basis we struggle with how to talk about this thing. And it's not easy to put your finger on, but I think it's the right thing to put your finger on. I think there's so many people out there that want to fit this description and need people like us to kind of consistently try to define it, and make it easier for them to point to.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that motivates me, is that it's not done yet and we need to figure it out.
Yeah. Two more things that come to mind from that is, number one, I think we need, and this is more about how do we improve the message of MeTotal, there needs to be a visual component. So we're working on some art and some brand in relation to MeTotal that I think is going to help to exemplify the message, because people hone in on those sorts of things. That's number one. And number two is we've decided to do this pretty organically, right? We've had some conversations with some folks that sort of spin around the same kind of circle and try to kind of read them into what we think MeTotal is, but we haven't really gone out and tried to find the right person to be sort of an ambassador that has a significant amount of influence in the sphere of the world that we're talking. And I think that's something that we'll do pretty shortly here, which is going to, I think, at least to some degree, to Joe, to your point, being sort of a mantra that in its infancy will give some level of credibility and hopefully some level of momentum as it pertains to the flywheel to start to capture more mind share, more perspectives, more people that are in similar places. Because the reality is, and I've said this in another show that we did, Goggins talks about, Kary's boy Goggins, who we mentioned already today, talks about you just get to this place that I can't describe, right? You keep pushing on it. You keep chasing being this better person or this better version of yourself. And ultimately you just get to this mindset that allows you to keep going. It allows you to start to like really understand it. And whether that's his ultra marathons or just not, maybe it's not drinking, that he doesn't have a coin or way to frame. And I think that's MeTotal. I mean, that's truly what we're talking about, is getting to this place that's indescribable except for the results and the better people that we have become and hopefully many others will be encouraged to become themselves as part of this as we go forward.
Let's transition real quick. I think we should crack the top on the topic that's been kind of brewing beneath the surface of the podcast and the MeTotal movement and this thing that we call FUZZEE'ish and all that stuff. Because I think it's, I don't know why this is the right time, but I think it's worthwhile to talk about right now because I think the industry is getting interesting right now with a lot of the stuff that's going on, and I don't know. I just get a sense that we should probably describe this thing that kind of brought us all together. So, for the listening audience, we've been working on something now for a few years, and that kind of supersedes our podcast in terms of length in which we've been working on it. And it's the thing that kind of brought the three of us and many more people together prior to the podcast. The podcast is the scaffolding around this thing, actually, or maybe this will be the scaffolding around the podcast. Who knows how it's going to eventually work out? But we were brought together for something much different originally. And JM, go ahead and let everybody know what that is.
Yeah, man, it's interesting you wanted to talk about this today. It's something that I think my Uncle Gus, my dad's brother, brought up after the second podcast, having known sort of the origin and the genesis of how we all came together and why we initially decided to do the podcast, why we call it FUZZEE'ish. I mean, on and on. But the reality is, obviously, we came together because we had an idea for infused drink. It spawned from an old story of my grandmother, my rest in peace, country Macon, Georgia grandmother used to call sparkling water fuzzy water. And I was reminded of that in like 2015, bought a bunch of domains around fuzzy water. Years later, friend knew I was thinking about not drinking anymore, said he had been out in California, had tried this infused beverage, said it gave him the perfect fuzzy feeling. And before I knew it, all of a sudden I'm calling you guys to talk about, have you heard of cannabis-infused beverage? And we're chasing a cannabis business, which is something that I would have never in a million years dreamed to have been pursuing myself, considering my technology consulting and sort of brand background. But brand was always something that I did want to do. And so all this, here we are. And people say all the time, it's something I really subscribe to, the best brands have the best origin stories. And so the fact that Ann McCrary in Macon, Georgia used to call club soda, recovering alcoholic, fuzzy water. And I was reminded of that and then had this conversation and called you guys. God bless. Here we are with this cool story about cannabis infused beverage that we're chasing. And what's interesting is I think we started talking about the podcast as a way to basically lean in to what we were doing on the beverage side. And what's turned out is that MeTotal has come out of the FUZZEE'ish podcast. And if I'm honest, all of a sudden that feels so much more important to me than the brand of product that we're working on. And I think ultimately there is going to be a separation, right? Like it's not going to be the same. I think that there's a crew of people as part of our MeTotal movement that might be interested in trying a fuzzy water versus an alcoholic beverage. Or there might be people like myself that thought, oh, this is what I was going to lean on instead of booze, that now hasn't had any THC in a lot of months. And so, I think that the cool thing is there's kind of all these different directions that we can take it, but we're feeling really good about the product. I think the other interesting thing that's happened, much to some of our chagrin, maybe all of our chagrin, is the industry continues to sort of stay in a little bit of a stagnant state as it pertains to regulation and not a lot of clarity on where it's headed. A lot more interest and a lot more volume being pumped into the farm bill category, sort of that Delta 9 and Delta 8, which we have decided not to chase, at least to date. And obviously the government still sort of held up on federal regulation. So our advisors, our investors are really interested in kind of waiting till a clearer path because, fortunately we have access to some pretty cool influence and a lot of capital, and feel like when it's the right time, we can really jump on it versus trying to just dip our toe.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing. I'll kind of give my insertion story, I guess you could say, and then Kary, you give yours as well, because I think we come in from two various different backgrounds. I'm more of like the alcohol guy who's worked in that professionally, and Kary's more of like the OG kind of like grew up for the past 20 years in like the heartland of cannabis. But so I kind of first started to get the sense that JM and I both were rallied around a similar concept when I had already quit drinking alcohol. I was out in Los Angeles at this time. JM was out in town visiting. He was on a work trip, and we got together at a World Series gathering at a bar down in Santa Monica, and I was drinking I think Budweiser Zero or Heineken Zero or something like that.
Zero, yeah.
I think JM was still drinking at the time, but he was already starting to think about giving it up. And around the same time, Lagunitas had come out with a hop infused, cannabis infused beverage called Hop Water that had some THC in it. And I remember thinking at that time, I was like, holy smokes, that you can actually drink a beverage that doesn't get you drunk, that gets you a little bit high, but also completely avoids having a hangover the next day. I was like, how is this not like a $30 billion idea already? And having the background that I have working at an enterprise level in the consumer packaged goods beverage space. I mean, I've worked on every kind of beverage you could possibly imagine. I've worked on beer, liquor, wine, tea, kombucha, water, pretty much you name the kind of beverage, and there's a chance I've done something at a professional level in support of that type of beverage. So, yeah, when JM called me up maybe like a year or so later and said, hey, I've got some IP, we're talking fuzzy water, you want to join the crew? I did not think twice. I was like, hell yeah, I want to join the team. And so off we go. And I've always wanted to do a podcast anyway, and I always thought that this would be a great way to kind of entree people into this lifestyle that I've been living for the past 6 years, alcohol free, but kind of interested in other things. And to be honest with you, I still think there's a lot of runway for that. I think there's so many people out there that are medically going to have to give up alcohol. They're just going to have to. And things like fuzzy water can prevent you from having to, not have friends anymore. You can still go to the bar and have a fuzzy or a beverage of similar ilk and not get drunk, not have any arguments with your spouse, like all the things you don't want to do that alcohol kind of is the precursor for. You don't have to do those things when you have a fuzzy beverage or fuzzy water or a beverage like it. And that's what gets me really excited about this type of a product. But anyway, Kary, over to you.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on both of your stories. Yeah, I mean, you say I'm the OG, but I'm like, man, I feel like I'm still just learning so much about it. But in 2014, I was living in Oregon, and that's when cannabis officially became recreational in Oregon, and it was a big deal. A lot of people were really excited, and there's a lot of promise for that, not just because you could smoke cannabis and not get arrested, but there also was this component of, wow, like cannabis actually became illegal in 1937, but before that, it was used for medicinal purposes mostly, and it was like one of the top three. Don't quote me on this, but I want to say it was like one of the top three sort of elixirs that doctors would prescribe to people for different ailments, whether it was pain or anxiety or whatever the case may be. So, I think for me, unfortunately, before 2014, it wasn't legal. So technically, I guess I was breaking the law because I was consuming cannabis. But it's interesting. As soon as it became legal, I started working with a company that its whole messaging was around cannabis as a lifestyle, cannabis as an enhancement. Like, this isn't about sitting on the couch, eating Cheetos, playing video games. And there's nothing wrong with doing that if that's your deal. But that's just not what the brand was about. Like, a lot of the people I was working with were very, very high performing business owners and very athletic surfers, and just did a lot of stuff. They really took their health and fitness serious. So for me, like, my perspective on cannabis sort of changed a lot once it became legal, because there was more talk just around like, what are the actual benefits of cannabis outside of just getting high? So when JM sort of started talking about this in 2020, to me specifically, I know you've been talking about this for a while. I was really excited because I knew that cannabis was more than what so many other people were talking about. And even for myself, I've tried so many different variations of cannabis. I was sort of at the point in my career where I was more into microdosing cannabis and not just hitting bongs and smoking and doing all the stuff that I did in a previous lifetime. So just being able to have a little bit of cannabis to start my day or to enhance my workout just sounded like a really cool thing to do. So yeah, man. I mean, I think it's been interesting how Fuzzy has evolved because to your point earlier, JM, I feel like, MeTotal was sort of born out of Fuzzy. And since then, like my cannabis consumption has gone down like tremendously, like almost to zero at this point. Because I realize again, like cannabis can be used in so many positive ways. It's such a unique alternative for so many of the other things that I think people are prescribed to or feel more comfortable using. So just having the opportunity to be on a team that's helping to sort of change the dialogue around cannabis was exciting. But I think also too, just really being able to create an environment with this whole MeTotal movement for people who are kind of sober. Again, we're not saying any of this stuff is bad. It's just, are you using it to escape? Are you using it to numb? Or are you using it to enhance your life? Are you using it to go deeper into yourself? Are you using it to connect with other elements of yourself? So I think in so many words, this whole fuzzy-ish journey has been really unique because out of the fuzziness, I think there's actually been a lot of clarity around this MeTotal movement that I feel ultimately is what fuzzy is about. It's about finding alternatives to just becoming the healthiest version of yourself.
Well, that's a great little bit from each of us. I think I'll leave it on this this notion from the new head coach of the Washington Commanders. I love doing hard things with great people, and that seems like the journey we're on. If I had to coin a sub phrase for the collective me total or we total, it would be that. So, pleasure to be on this journey with you fellas. Let's move on from that topic. And if any of the listeners out there have any questions about FUZZEE'ish or, the Fuzzy water brand, I guess now I can mention that in conversation, when it's going to be available, where it's going to be available, all that stuff. We don't have a ton of detail. Like JM said, we're going to slow roll it, but we're happy to have those conversations, in the DMs or whatever, or email or whatever kinds of questions you have. Or even if you want to, shoot us over the names of some products that you've been able to see out in the wild that are like this product. We're constantly doing research and market research, and we want to get familiar with all of the products out there. So feel free to shoot us a note and let us know what you're drinking and stuff like that. That'd be great. We are going to go into Products and Practices 2024 edition. You're not allowed to use any of your products and practices that you've brought up in the past. Just kind of going back. And again, so I think the spin on this one is think about it more in terms of MeTotal and less in terms of FUZZEE'ish. So in terms of your wellness, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever the case may be, what are some of those things that are helping you live into your MeTotal in 2024?
Yeah, I'll go first. It'll be really quick. Trying to wake up at 5:07 every morning. So
why 5:07?
I like 7's my lucky number, so I try to keep numbers for whatever reason are impactful. I feel it, I feel connection to them. So 5:07, alarm goes off. Typically, it doesn't go off. I get out of bed, not on the weekends, but during the week. I've been going and seeing a trainer 2 days a week at 6 a.m. But yeah, just trying to get the day started earlier. Found that I've been able to just do some quiet time sort of thinking, but also get some stuff done before the kids are awake and without any sort of stressors of the day in front of me, both personally and professionally. And then also hit the fitness button earlier, which just seems to make for a better day or a day more filled with MeTotal. So waking up earlier is my 2024 practice.
Kary, what say you?
Right on. Yeah, I was just getting some flashbacks of that number 7 football jersey, JM.
That's cool. There you go. Yeah, that's not the reason. There's not many good. There's a couple of good highlights, and you're in both of them, but that's about it.
100%. Yeah. So for me, I got 2 quick ones. Man, I started playing chess last year, and I mean, for me personally, it's not like I'm just playing it all day, but I just find that if I'm able to just sort of play for like 10 minutes, I have a couple of friends who play, so I'm able just to make a move and move away. There's something about the strategy of chess that just feels like it makes me sharper for a lot of other things happening in the day. I just feel more strategic. So it's just been a lot of fun learning that game. I wish I would have started when I was younger. I think I'm too old to become a grandmaster at this point, unless I just get real serious, but that's been a lot of fun. And then also too, I haven't mentioned this before, but it's something I've done on and off and just kind of getting back into it. My wife purchased this like tub that it's essentially a portable tub and you can fill it. But since it's winter here in Georgia, if you fill it with water, it gets really cold. So I've been getting back into cold plunging and again, just feeling different emotions. Like no matter how you feel, you immerse yourself in cold water, something's gonna switch. So chess and cold plunging has been sort of something that I'm looking to really dive deeper into in 2024.
Love the cold plunge. I do cold showers every day. I love it. So some of you that watch us on YouTube might notice that my background's changed. So I'll give you a quick explanation as to why that is. For a while, I was always going for what's in my background when I'm on Zooms or Google Meets or meetings for work or podcast episodes or whatever. But then I started realizing that's not for me. That's not for my mental health because I don't like staring at a wall. And that's what I would be doing if I was optimizing my background for you. So I've faced my door out the window so I can actually look at the woods. And I also put a bunch of these like fake plants behind my computer. And, as silly as it sounds, being able to look at some, flowers puts me in a really good mood every day. So I've got those. I've got the little fake cactus joints down here. And it just makes me feel great. Like I don't know. Sometimes I'll crack my window open, get a little breeze coming in from the outside. Just kind of that, just feeling that experiential kind of like vibe in my room lifts my spirits. And no matter what I'm facing, like after I get through, of course, it wouldn't be me if I didn't mention new religious books and new devotionals that I've gotten and all that kind of stuff, which I do look at and read every day. But I like what I look at as well, like just being able to look at my computer screen and just beyond that, be greeted with flowers and the outdoor and stuff like that. Dramatic spike in mood.
Yeah, secretly, I was waiting for the jazzercise to be mentioned again, but I know you
Oh
mentioned that
yeah,
in
I
the past.
mean, like I gotta have a good looking jawline, right? So for the YouTube followers out there, these little guys, you chomp on. Here the thought is that we as a human species, we don't chew our food as much as our parents' generation did because we eat all kinds of crap that goes in the microwave and whatnot. And back in the 50s and 60s, apparently people ate more steak and chicken and all that kind of stuff. So you use this thing, you get the jawline from the 50s. So there you go.
Nice. All about the fall plants, man. I got a couple of those here too.
Gotta get the plants, man. Cool. All right. And the last segment, my favorite segment, and this time I don't actually have sneakers to share with everybody, but feet heat.
Oh, you don't have those new Balances? Well, I was waiting for them.
I've got something on my feet, but I wouldn't necessarily call them New Balances or shoes at all. So we'll get into it. What's going on JM's feet today at the Glass?
Oh, you're going with me first?
Look how nonchalant he is. He's about to pull some fire up. Watch him.
These are the
Ridge
lost and found
Ooh,
Jordan 1s that they released last year. So
take it
idea
easy.
It's supposed to look like the originals. So there's like some worn aspect of them.
Nice.
And then the tongue is yellowed.
Ooh.
Oh wow!
As if they're the real thing. The box is actually all sort of distressed too. Some of the leather is distressed on it. These are tight. These
Just
are
casual?
some of my favorite sets. Yeah,
Those are
these
clean.
are tight.
Yeah. Kary, what's on your feet?
Yeah, I think I pulled these up before, man. I got these actually not too. These are I think I had these a couple of years ago, but these are the Jordan 3-2-1s. It's a combination of the ones,
I
the
like
3.
those. You've never
and the
shown
2.
those. I do like those.
Yeah, these are
tight.
fun. I don't wear them out much, but I knew what today was going to be.
You knew what today was. Well, I apparently forgot because, and I could just go into my closet behind me and fake it, but I've been in this like northern exposure kind of vibe with like the little like jackets and whatnot, and my wife likes to keep the AC on real low in the house. So, but I've got some nice socks on, nice high dress socks, and I've got my Burke clogs on.
Nice.
Just easy to slip on, slip off.
Got me thinking about Brett Winston right now, man.
I have plantar fasciitis, so I can't step barefoot on hardwood, or else my feet go nuts, my arches go nuts. So I have to wear something, and Birks are like, kind of acceptable. Like usually I have to wear sneakers, but I can get away with these.
Tried and true.
And they go with every outfit for the most part, so why not?
100%.
Yeah.
Those Dave Matthews vibes, man.
Something.
One of the feed heat that Mr. Human showed were his Noble shoes. Several iterations of this again. Anybody see and I'm going to bring in the current events that we didn't do. Anybody see the current events about Noble over the last 10 or so days?
Nah, man, you got my ears open.
Is it acquired?
Hopefully, it isn't some scandal.
It's not acquired. It's not a scandal. No.
Okay.
It's
not acquired. Not a scandal. No, I haven't seen the news about Noble.
So there was this football player, and many consider him to be the greatest to ever do it as a quarterback. Or number 12 for both the Patriots and the Buccaneers.
Oh, that guy.
And depending on what Mahomes does this weekend, some more current events, maybe that challenge of the GOAT becomes a real conversation, because that dude's going to have 3 rings if they win this weekend, and he's pretty young. So we'll come back to that. But here's Tom Brady, who decided to take his MeTotal, which was all the wellness that he was doing and all the nutrition and all the supplements, and he creates this brand TB12, starts to sell protein and different other mineral supplements, vitamins, etc. And then the dude's like, all right, my contract with Under Armour is done. I'm going to create the Brady brand, which was basically just an apparel brand with his name on it that he started doing, using a lot of the same factories as what was creating the apparel for Under Armour when he was one of the main athletes there. And then he becomes the number 1 guy on CBS, or Fox. He's going to kick, Olsen off the number 1. And then he just decides, you know what? I'm good with it not being me anymore. I'm going to sell TB12 and the Brady brand to Noble. So all of that was acquired by Noble. My man played in the Pebble Beach Pro-Am last week, head to toe in Noble apparel, because he's now one of he's like the most significant minority shareholder in that brand. So that brand is going to continue to go up.
Big time.
Big time. Go ahead, Tom Brady.
Sweet partnership.
Tom Brady is doing it, dude. That guy.
His agent is doing it.
I mean, I think I'm actually pretty impressed by him, right? Like, I think if you look at all the different things that he's in, he's a pretty impressive guy. His golf swing is not great, but otherwise, man, like, I think his business acumen is strong. He clearly is a leader of men.
Yeah.
He clearly has the right level of narcissism that he can create a brand with his own name on it and then sell it to Noble and not care.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, good.
He's doing it.
Good. Well done, Mr. Brady.
Well,
maybe he'll be a
Quite
sponsor
impressive.
of Fuzzy Water when we do our first Super Bowl commercial 10 years from now.
Yeah, there we go. The GOAT. All right.
All right, guys.
Good to see you.